Lowe's knows how to get you ready for holiday hosting with up to 35% off select home decor. And get up to 35% off select major appliances. Plus, members get free delivery, haul away, basic installation, parts, and a 2-year Lowe's protection plan when you spend $2,500 or more on select LG major appliances. Valid through 10/1. Member offer excludes Massachusetts, Maryland, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and Florida. Installed by independent contractors. Exclusions apply. See Lowe's.com for more details.
It's Wednesday night after a long day, and the last thing you want to do is cook dinner from scratch. But you still want a satisfying, tasty meal without the guilt? Enter your freezer's sidekick, Cauliflower. From thin and crispy cauliflower crust pizzas to all-natural white meat chicken tenders and more, Cauliflower is gluten-free always, satisfies every craving, and is ready in minutes. Cauliflower is available in freezer aisles nationwide. Visit eatcauliflower.com/where-to-buy to find a store near you.
You're listening to Missing Persons, brought to you by AbJack Entertainment. Be sure to check out some of the other great true crime podcasts from this network, including The Murder in My Family, DNA ID, Zodiac Speaking, Scene of the Crime,
Beyond Bizarre True Crime, Campus Killings,
and
Killer Communications.
All of these podcasts are available for you to binge on right now, wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe where you're listening to this podcast so you don't miss an episode.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the podcast, its creators, or sponsors. This episode may contain unsettling or disturbing subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
If you'd like to support Missing Persons and get VIP access to things like ad-free listening, early preview episodes, and bonus content of not only this show, but for every other podcast on the AbJack network of indie podcast, consider subscribing to the show with an AbJack Insider subscription through Apple Podcast. For only $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year, you'll unlock a variety of listener benefits, and you'll be supporting the show in the process. Your support is greatly appreciated.
Welcome to Missing Persons, a podcast dedicated to spreading the word about people who have vanished under mysterious or unexplained circumstances and the family members who are looking for answers. I'm Jess Betancourt.
And I'm Mike Morford. Together, we created this podcast to help give a voice to people who continue to search for their missing loved ones. In some cases, even after decades have gone by. In each episode, you'll hear from Jess giving listeners the backstory and the basic facts of the disappearance.
Then Mike will speak with someone who's intimately connected to the missing person, and his guest will share their story with us. So sit back and enjoy this episode, and who knows, maybe you can help us find someone who's missing. In early 2023, Missing Persons covered the case of Matthew Yeomans, who went missing from Easton, Massachusetts on Sunday, September 19, 2021. That was episode 67, which we encourage you to go back and listen to. In summary, Matthew, who was 25 years old, was living with his grandfather, Donald, on Summer Street in Easton. Listeners might recall that Matthew's mother was a longtime domestic partner of John Jobe, who was our guest in the original episode and brings us a tragic update today. Matthew had been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and both his parents were deceased, so his care fell to Donald, his grandfather, and John. Matthew often spent time with one of Donald's neighbors, a retired firefighter, but on the weekend that Matthew went missing, they had a disagreement. The neighbor reported to the Easton Police Department that Matthew was firing guns at targets behind his grandfather's house. Police officers arrived and diffused the situation, but the next day, Sunday, Matthew drank alcohol, something he was unused to doing, and John and Donald felt was facilitated by the neighbor. Donald saw Matthew in the home around 9:00 p.m., but when he awoke the next morning, Matthew was gone. He didn't take his car, phone, or wallet. This unexplained departure was out of character for Matthew, and on Tuesday, September 21st, 2021, Donald reported his grandson missing. Easton police conducted extensive searches for Matthew, including scouring the 5 acres of wooded, brushy land Donald's home sits on and that abuts other houses. They also searched nearby parks and woods, with cooperation from the Massachusetts State Police Air Wing, K-9 units, and officers on ATVs and mountain bikes. After failing to locate Matthew, the search was suspended and police ceased to investigate the case. Donald, the grandfather, has since passed away. His estate was bequeathed to Matthew, but it couldn't be settled as Matthew remained missing. That recently changed. On May 1st, 2024, a neighbor at 113 Summer Street was exploring his property and found a skull in a brook. More bones were soon located. While the excavation of the incomplete skeletal remains was ongoing, mention was made in the media about Matthew Yeomans, the missing young man who had vanished from a location very, very nearby. Soon, using dental records, the medical examiner made a positive identification. The remains indeed belonged to Matthew. However, the ME was unable to determine a cause of death. Matthew's death certificate reflects that his death was due to undetermined causes. Police have not released any information as to whether any clothing or personal items were found, whether any weapons were located, or what their theories are as to how Matthew's remains ended up being found so close to his home in an area that had been thoroughly searched. A spokesperson for the DA's office said there is no threat to the public, but it is unknown why this statement was made. In short, there are a lot of questions remaining about the death of Matthew Yeomans. John Jobe, Matthew's unofficial stepfather, is here today to talk with Mike Morford about Matthew's case. That conversation is coming up after a word from our sponsors.
Hey everyone, this episode of Missing Persons is brought to you by CBDX, and if you've been tossing and turning at night, this is for you. A lot of us hit a point where sleep just changes. It's harder to fall asleep, we wake up in the middle of the night, and we start the day already tired. And that's not just in your head. Sleep struggles are common, especially when stress and long days pile up. That's why so many people are discovering the powers of cannabinoids. Yes, cannabinoids can be fun, but the benefits go way beyond recreation. People are using them to manage stress, ease comfort, support mood, and finally get real rest. And here's the thing. A lot of people used to turn to a glass of wine or a nightcap to wind down. But more and more people are choosing a healthier, natural alternative, one that actually supports better sleep instead of disrupting it. That's where CBDX's lights-out, sugar-free, THC plus CBN sleep gummies come in. CBDX gummies are made for restorative sleep, not partying. Each blends indica-based THC for relaxation, CBN for sleep quality, plus glycine, chamomile, L-theanine, and just 1 milligram of melatonin. I recently came back to Florida after being in Denver for a weekend, and the time change had my sleep pattern off. But with one CBDX gummy, it didn't take long to get back into my normal sleeping pattern. I had a good night's sleep and woke up feeling rested. CBDX gummies are naturally sweetened with monk fruit, no chemicals, no weird aftertaste. You take one, drift off gently, stay asleep, and wake up clear-headed. No hangover, no grogginess. And CBDX isn't just about sleep. They've got THC sativa blends for creativity, hybrids for balance, indicas for deep relaxation, and premium non-THC gummies with cannabinoids like CBG, CBD, CBC, and CBN, each with unique wellness benefits. So if you're ready to feel better every day, visit CBDX.com and use code MISSING for 20% off your first order. CBDX, plant-powered wellness you can trust. Once again, go to CBDX.com and use code MISSING to save 20% off your first order. Get the sleep you deserve. Hi, John. Thanks for coming back for this special update episode about Matthew's case. I wish it was under happier circumstances, but sadly it's because his remains were found. So our condolences go out to you.
Thank you, Mike, and thanks for having me.
I know you really took an effort in caring for Matthew, even as he was an adult. You really advocated for his case when he went missing. So I know how important finding out what really happened to him is for you.
Yes, it's so we don't have much information, but I do have, some, but it's the unknown, the why, what happened.
Sure. And it's almost like you have answers in one way because you have an outcome, you have a body, but you still don't know what led to that. So it probably just a new set of questions for you now.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's different scenarios that could have happened, but right. That's what I'm looking for now. It's just some information. If anybody out there had some information, just wanted to know what happened. Yep.
Sure. And I just want to invite listeners who may not be familiar with Matthew's case, or maybe they didn't hear about John's efforts to find him in our first episode we did. That was episode 67. So if anybody wants to go back and listen to that and hear our original conversation with John, and just as a reminder, and correct me if I'm wrong, so you were Matthew's stepfather, and when his mom passed away, you continued to stay in his life and have a relationship with him. Is that correct?
Yes, I knew his mother well over 17 years. And when Matt was about 12, his mother passed away, and I kind of took Matt over. I saw him on every weekend since he was 12 years old, and he went missing at 25 years old.
Okay. And I also want to point out to listeners before we get into this that you still don't know a lot of details because you've been kept in the dark, it seems, despite being close with him and being an advocate for him when he was missing. You're sort of not getting a lot of answers, or people aren't really talking to you. And we're going to talk about that and find out why that is, why you think that is. But I do want to ask if you can just run through when were Matthew's remains found and what the circumstances around them being found, how and where and how close was this to his house?
Yes, very good. So Matt went missing, as in the first episode, 67. Matt went missing September 19, 2021. And the grandfather reported him missing September 21st, 2021. And Matt's remains, which they found a skull and very few bones, and it was in early May of 2023. And they found him in a brook 4 houses away from his house. And the way they found him was a neighbor was checking his property lines and happened to see a bone on the bank of a brook. And that brook runs in the back of the property, which Dawn and Matt own. There's 5 acres back there, and that's where they found him.
Was that an area that Matthew would go sometimes? Did he ever walk out there or do anything along that area?
Yes, Matt was very familiar with the woods out back. He had trails back there. He didn't really hang out back there, but he knew the area well. It's not something where he would have got lost or anything like that, but he knew the area well. And he did explore that area.
Now, how much land are we talking about out there? Is it acres and acres?
Got you. Yep. So at his house, there was 5 acres in the back of his yard, the back of the house, which stretched, and that 5 acres stretched behind like 3 other houses.
And that little bit of water that goes through there, is this like a stream, a creek? About how deep do you think that might be?
Very good. It was called Black Brook, and it's at the time it wasn't all that big, but over the years maybe it did fill up, and it kind of overflowed in a way maybe. So it was a brook that's kind of well known in Easton, called Black Brook, and it could have been at the time he went missing. There was not much water in there.
So are we talking maybe a couple feet deep, or deeper than that maybe?
Nope, I'd say a couple, like 2 or 3. I'd say about a couple of feet. If you had boots on, you could walk across it.
Okay. And so from what I understand, Matthew's skull was found in the water, but within 100 feet of there, other bones were found nearby. Is that correct?
I've heard that. I officially never got a report of what they found, how many searches they did there, because I believe they went back a second time and found something else. So I tried to get some information. I'm not sure. I wanted to know what they found with them, clothing, anything like that, and I never heard.
Was this an area that had been searched previously when he first went missing?
Yes. Yep. I even did a search. So I took it upon myself and I did a search of that whole 5 acres, and I gridded it off, just like a hunter would, and I didn't see anything whatsoever. And where they found Matt, I was right around there, and no sign of anything. They did have the K-9, they had helicopters when he went first missing, and obviously they never picked up anything on that. And I'm not sure how many searches they actually did out back there. I know they were concentrating on ponds, a big, it's called Borderland, which is a big park in Easton. So they were looking outside of the area where they actually found him.
I bet you've probably been to the doctor's office in the past few months. I bet you had to hand over personal info, like your insurance, your ID, maybe even your social security number. And I bet you weren't thinking about how your doctor is just one of many places that has your personal information. If any one of them isn't careful, it's a good bet they could accidentally expose your details to hackers and identity theft, putting you at risk. Fortunately, LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back, with plans covering up to $3 million for stolen funds and expenses. Don't take chances with your personal info. Help protect it even when it's out of your hands. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code iHeart. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code iHeart, or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.
It's Wednesday night after a long day, and the last thing you want to do is cook dinner from scratch. But you still want a satisfying, tasty meal without the guilt? Enter your freezer's sidekick, Cauliflower. From thin and crispy cauliflower crust pizzas to all-natural white meat chicken tenders and crowd-pleasing snacks, Cauliflower satisfies every craving. Cauliflower's products are your favorite comfort foods, but made better for you and gluten-free always. The best part? You don't have to sacrifice taste or time, so you can honor your cravings without compromising. Craving pizza? You can enjoy Cauliflower's delicious margarita pizza for only 370 calories for half the pizza. Looking for easy snacks that kids and adults alike will love? Cauliflower's baked, never fried pizza snacks are nostalgia reimagined and ready in 5 minutes. Cauliflower's products are available in freezer aisles nationwide. Visit eatcauliflower.com/where-to-buy to find a store near you.
There's a moment every parent remembers. The day their child takes off on 2 wheels. With Guardian Bikes, that moment comes as early as 2 years old, and with less stress and frustration. These bikes are built just for kids. Lightweight frames, low center of gravity, easy-to-use brakes. Everything about Guardian is designed to help kids ride confidently, often in just 1 day, no training wheels needed. And because Guardian bikes are designed and assembled right here in the USA, you know they're built to last. With care in every detail. Their patented SureStop braking system stops both wheels with a single lever, helping your child stop safely without tripping forward or losing control. Right now, save hundreds when comparing Guardian to its competitors at GuardianBikes.com and get a free lock and pump when you join their newsletter, a $50 value. Visit GuardianBikes.com today to save and help your child learn an essential life skill safely. Guardian Bikes, built for your kid and for the memories you'll never forget.
And you mentioned dogs. The dogs obviously would help, pick up a scent maybe, but if they're not in the right search area, then that could be, an issue. Is there any way to tell, or maybe you don't even know this, is there a way to tell if somehow, if maybe you missed during your search, you just somehow missed it? Could we tell if he had been out there the entire time, or is there any evidence that maybe he wound up there, his remains wound up there later, much longer after he went missing?
Very good. That's one of my biggest questions. How did they miss him if he was there? The dog. The grandfather reported him missing like 24 to 36 hours later. So maybe the dogs didn't pick up the scent. I was in that area. I could have missed it. The way it's like an open forest. The tree canopies and all the underbrush is a lot. You could just never go run through there and from one end to the other. There was a lot of debris in the way. It's in trees and all that. So it could have got missed, but I wanted to know if they had what they found with the bones, or how far away were all those bones? Did they find clothing? So I could never get that answer from them.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Do you know if there's any clothing or belongings or any of that stuff found with his remains, but I guess we don't know that. And I recall from our first conversation that many of Matthew's belongings were found inside his house, like his wallet, his phone, those kind of things were all found inside his house. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. His car keys, his wallet, which he was a fanatic about his wallet. Everything was right in his room up on his bureau. The only thing that was missing was Matt. We did find a shoe in the back of his yard, right where his back door patio is. And then there was another shoe kind of away from, like not near a trail, but towards his backyard. And they ended up with the medical examiner determining that it was an undetermined death. And in Massachusetts, there's only been 2.2% of all the deaths are classified undetermined. So it seems like pretty much they can try to figure out if it was suicide, intentional, unintentional, or homicide. But they saw no markings on the skull, and that's how they ID'd him through the dental records. And then they determined undetermined death. And I was wondering if that just closes out the case and everything's gone. So that's where I'm kind of hung up on.
Yeah, that kind of leaves you in a lurch, just wondering what happened here. And I know, maybe some of the other bones, I don't know what other kind of bones were found of his, but maybe some of the other bones could have had like nick marks on them from a knife blade or something along those lines. I think, certain neck bones will show evidence of like a strangulation or something like that. So there are clues they can sometimes find on some of these bones, but not always, depending on what's found and what condition it's in. And it sounds like if they've determined it as undetermined, then they didn't find anything specific that pointed to foul play.
Exactly. So that when they found the skull, they did tell me that there was no marks on it. And the little bones that they did find, same like you were saying, there was no marks on them. And I just can't get over how little bones they might have found with him or of him. And like where are the other bones? But yes, it kind of leaves it as where there's no marks on the skull. They just kind of figured undetermined.
And it's interesting. If his skull was found in the brook and other bones were found outside of that, short of an animal maybe scattering his remains or birds, it seems to open up a possibility that perhaps he could have been dismembered. Again, I mean, it's possible it could be bones or, scattered by animals, birds, that kind of stuff. But I'm curious, what is the wildlife out there like? Are there any kind of like, I don't know, coyotes, things like that might scatter remains like that?
Yes, there is. So there's the deer. They do have coyotes, and like I said, there's 5 acres, very thick woods, and it is possible. They did mention that an animal could have got him, and spread him around. And then we was thinking maybe between the 3 years of him missing to being found, the water in the brook, that could have, rised and carried some of them down the brook. So it is kind of, it's an open question exactly. What I'm having a hard time is if I knew Matt very well, I don't picture him just running through those woods and, falling, hitting his head and landing in the brook. It's possible. It might have been something that was just unintentional. But it's kind of hard to believe in how much of the bones that they found and where it was so late, 3 years later, and it's only 4 houses away.
Yeah. And the answers, may or may not be there, but his remains have been there, and that's, so close to home.
I bet you've probably been to the doctor's office in the past few months. I bet you had to hand over personal info, like your insurance, your ID, maybe even your social security number. And I bet you weren't thinking about how your doctor is just one of many places that has your personal information. If any one of them isn't careful, it's a good bet they could accidentally expose your details to hackers and identity theft, putting you at risk. Fortunately, LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity. If your identity is stolen, a LifeLock US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back, with plans covering up to $3 million for stolen funds and expenses. Don't take chances with your personal info. Help protect it even when it's out of your hands. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code iHeart. Call 1-800-LifeLock and use promo code iHeart, or go to lifelock.com/iHeart for 40% off. Terms apply.
It's Wednesday night after a long day, and the last thing you want to do is cook dinner from scratch. But you still want a satisfying, tasty meal without the guilt? Enter your freezer's sidekick, Cauliflower. From thin and crispy cauliflower crust pizzas to all-natural white meat chicken tenders and crowd-pleasing snacks, Cauliflower satisfies every craving. Cauliflower's products are your favorite comfort foods, but made better for you and gluten-free always. The best part? You don't have to sacrifice taste or time, so you can honor your cravings without compromising. Craving pizza? You can enjoy Cauliflower's delicious margarita pizza for only 370 calories for half the pizza. Looking for easy snacks that kids and adults alike will love? Cauliflower's baked, never fried pizza snacks are nostalgia reimagined and ready in 5 minutes. Cauliflower's products are available in freezer aisles nationwide. Visit eatcauliflower.com/where-to-buy to find a store near you.
There's a moment every parent remembers. The day their child takes off on 2 wheels. With Guardian Bikes, that moment comes as early as 2 years old, and with less stress and frustration. These bikes are built just for kids. Lightweight frames, low center of gravity, easy-to-use brakes. Everything about Guardian is designed to help kids ride confidently, often in just 1 day, no training wheels needed. And because Guardian bikes are designed and assembled right here in the USA, you know they're built to last. With care in every detail. Their patented SureStop braking system stops both wheels with a single lever, helping your child stop safely without tripping forward or losing control. Right now, save hundreds when comparing Guardian to its competitors at GuardianBikes.com and get a free lock and pump when you join their newsletter, a $50 value. Visit GuardianBikes.com today to save and help your child learn an essential life skill safely. Guardian Bikes, built for your kid and for the memories you'll never forget.
I remember, too, when we talked, you had a little bit of suspicion about some neighbors. If you could just maybe recap why you were suspicious of them, and have they talked to police since his remains were found? Do you know?
So I believe so. I believe only because the neighbor was real close to Matt. He knew Matt very well. And I believe they did check with him, but who knows? I'm not really positive. It seemed like a very quick investigation. They did finally talk to me, and I gave them like a statement, but it was very quick, kind of easy-ish, like straightforward answers, and it was like kind of quick. So I'm not really sure of like how far they actually went to investigating. I don't think they investigated all that much to me, but yep.
And, I also wanted to remind listeners that Matthew had Asperger's syndrome, which is described as a developmental condition characterized by challenges in social interaction and communication, along with restricted, repetitive patterns of behavior, interest in activities, and it's on the autism spectrum. But that being said, Matthew lived with his grandfather. He could fully take care of himself. He drove. So this isn't a case where if he walked out someplace, he wouldn't know how to help himself or get help if he needed it, or to yell out for help. Is that correct?
That's correct. So it was more on the spectrum of like, where's my wallet? Where's my keys? He always was a fanatic about stuff. Like, they had to be in a certain spot. His wallet always had to be on him. He was very good at like outdoors. We hiked for weekend after weekend after weekend. And he didn't like hanging out with a big crowd. He was kind of an invert. He stayed into his room, unbelievable with video games. That's what he liked to do. Basically, be a homebody, be on his computer with games, and very smart. He was a very smart guy.
And he had the Asperger's, but you just detailed how he still did a lot of stuff and had a pretty productive life. But I am curious, one news outlet, CBS News Boston, they reported, quote, Yeomans had a medical condition and struggled with a mental health issue at the time of his disappearance. So I'm curious, do you know what they meant by that? Did he have a medical condition like a heart murmur or anything along those lines?
Yeah, no, that was the grandfather saying that, because I heard it before. He had mental health issues, and I'm looking at the Asperger side of it. Was he depressed? He might have been depressed, but he's never ever. Had a very open relationship. He could tell me anything, and I could tell him anything. And I never saw like a suicidal thing with him. We have both of us. We have all our downs and outs. And was doing really good. He was taking care of the grandfather, which he was like 80 years old, and he had diabetes. And he ended up passing away on May 5th, 2022. So he didn't even get to see if Matt's remains were found or not.
And that sort of leads right into my next question, because another news outlet, turnto10.com, they put in their article, if you or someone you know is in crisis, call the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. I think that maybe leads some people to suspect that there's suicide hinted here, that maybe Matthew took his own life. Now, you just touched on it a little bit. Was that something he ever threatened, or was there ever any sign that he would take his own life?
See, I never saw that part. The neighbor did mention something about that, that Matt said something about it. I never saw it in Matt. He could have kept it from me, but if he did, it was very hidden. I don't feel that was on his mind. I know we were like down and out sometimes. He did have a cell phone that he smashed, or somehow got smashed, and they finally, through forensics, did get a search out of there. And one of the police officers mentioned it wasn't a good search. He never really told me what it was, but when he was telling me, it seemed like something about suicide. But I just blew it off and said, I don't picture Matt doing that. Is it possible? Yeah, I'm sure it could have been possible.
And let's turn to something that's really weighed on you, and that's, you've expressed to me, we've talked a little bit before we did this conversation here, that you feel that you're not getting much information, that you're sort of being kept in the dark, despite being close to Matthew and having advocated for him when he was missing. Why do you feel that you're sort of the odd man out, or not being kept informed as to what's going on and who's doing this?
Yep, gotcha. So, like you said, I've known Matt for quite a long time, taking care of him. I feel that I call him my stepson. I was never married to his mother. He actually called me like a stepdad, so it was not officially in the court system as me being his stepdad. So when Don Yeomans passed away, they do have a family lawyer, and they were checking the wills and all that. And basically, when I finally get a hold of him, I get very little information from him. And in the end, I was basically told, let the due process of the court system take over. And I pretty much don't have any authorization to do anything, because right now Matt has been cremated and he's in a funeral home waiting to be buried. And he's been there for a year now. and there's a family plot where he can go to. So I guess I feel that even though I was with Matt well over half his life, I have no say in like trying to go get his body. I can't find out his autopsy. I don't have jurisdiction over it or something. I wanted to see like what the medical examiner actually thought. So I'm kept out of the loop from, I think, just legally wise.
It's got to be very frustrating because you, as you mentioned, you were there for half his life. You were close to him. You talked all the time. And then to just sort of be shut out and not be able to get answers has to be really frustrating.
It's very frustrating. Sometimes I feel like maybe I shouldn't say nothing, but I feel like I should still talk for Matt. I think Matt would want me to still keep him in memory, try to find out as much information as possible. Through the episode 67 with you, that kind of worked out good on certain ends of it. I was able to get a nonprofit investigator, and he was great. He was kind of my spokesman. He got me some my questions answered through like the police department. With Easton Police, I'm sure they have limited funds and all that. And Matt just became a 25-year-old missing person with no scene, no crime scene. And here I am, a family friend, as they call it, just looking for some information. So I kind of see a little bit of what they were trying to do is, provide the family with information, which come to find out there really isn't much family. I think they're tracking down some very distant family or something now. I still don't know. I still don't get any information from the lawyer whatsoever. And it's very frustrating. Yep.
And short of the police launching a new investigation or some kind of new evidence coming to light or whatever, it may be that you'd never find out what happened to Matt. How frustrating is that? How much does that weigh on you?
Yes. So, my question, so I had made like a little list of like my questions, like basic stuff, like what happened to Matt on September 19, 2021 in the evening. And another one was, what does anyone know? And I believe someone might know. And how did police searchers miss Matt 4 houses away in the woods for 3 years? Another one was, what was found with Matt at the time they discovered him? Clothes, bones. How much of Matt did they find? And my last one kind of would be, does labeling Matt an undetermined death close the case?
Yeah, you think some of these answers the police would just be willing to respond to you and just answer, because some of them are just pretty much common sense questions that anyone might ask. So some of that stuff you think they'd be able to answer for you, and maybe someday they will. Maybe if there's anyone out there listening that might know of a resource to help you get answers, maybe they can reach out to you. Do you have, and I just want to check and ask, do you have any kind of websites or social media pages or anything for Matthew's case?
We have a Facebook page, but I don't really have, I didn't really start much of, I probably should write of something that they can send in about Matt, right?
Yeah, and what is the name of the Facebook page?
It would be Matt Yeomans.
Okay, so just search Matt Yeomans on Facebook, and then also anyone with any information or any resources or any ideas to help you, they can always reach out to us on the show here, and then we can put them in touch with you too, and maybe they can help you get some more answers. And of course, anyone listening, if you do know anything about Matthew's case, reach out to the authorities as well. I'm sure that would help as well. I want to thank you for coming back on, John, because this is I know how important this is. I know how much you advocated for his case and wanted to know what happened to him. And although you have partial answers you have as remains. You still don't know much else. So I hope you do find the answers that you're looking for.
I appreciate you, Mike. And if there's any listeners out there that would reach out with any kind of information or some information that I could do the searches with, would definitely be appreciative, much appreciative. It's the unknown of actually what happened to him, and is the killer part of it. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, Mike, for everything.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Missing Persons. If you can provide any information to help solve the case we discussed in this episode, please contact the appropriate authorities.
If you enjoy this podcast, please take a moment to tell your friends about Missing Persons and invite them to listen to the show. Word of mouth will help us grow and bring these cases to a larger audience. You can also help us by taking a moment to rate and review Missing Persons on the platform you're listening to us now on. If you want to get early and ad-free access to new episodes of Missing Persons and help support the show in the process, please consider a subscription to our Apple Podcast. For only $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year, you'll get early ad-free access to not only this show, but to every other show on the AbJack network of podcasts. You can get started with a free trial by searching for AbJack Entertainment in your Apple app, and we'll include a link in the show notes. If you want to find us on social media, we're on every major platform and on YouTube. Just search for Missing Persons Podcast. We'll include links to all of our social media in our show notes, and you can also visit our website, missingpersonspodcast.com. Finally, if you're in need of a platform to discuss a missing persons case that you're connected to, feel free to reach out to us on our website. We're happy to help. Just a reminder that new episodes of Missing Persons air every other Saturday. On behalf of Jess Betancourt, this is Mike Morford saying thanks, and we'll see you next time on Missing Persons.